Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. In our first story, the HOA triggered our OP to take revenge against them. The HOA didn't research the township ordinances when writing their rules, and as a result, the people followed the rules of the HOA and then got fined by the township. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Christmas decorating and an HOA. A little background first so it makes sense. This HOA was usually okay, but the Christmas display was motivated in part by the desire to get revenge for a boneheaded policy. Both my friend and I live in the same township and technically the same neighborhood, although his development is much newer than mine and has an HOA. The neighborhood borders a county park and as a result has lots of wild animals, including everyone's favorite trash bandit, the raccoon. The township has an ordinance that trash cans can go out 24 hours before pickup and bags can only go out an hour before pickup. Pickup time is 5 a.m. The HOA's policy ran afoul of the ordinance in that they allowed all trash out at the 24-hour mark. People in the development were getting fined and no one could figure out why until I told my friend about the ordinance and everybody learned it wasn't the HOA fining them, it was the township. Most didn't want to buy the required trash can, so they'd just been using bags and getting fined as a result. They would also get fined if the trash was late for pickup, again because of the raccoons. Everyone in that neighborhood broke down and got trash cans. Our township is overseen by a board of trustees and provides police and fire protection. Other townships in my county contract with the sheriff for protection. The county does not provide trash service, it's contracted out. Now on to the story. My friend lives in a homeowners association and they have a very strict rule on lawn ornaments and decorating. They banned pink flamingos on their own, this is important later, and for Christmas they require the house to have a theme. My friend was looking for a way to screw with them and I found it for him in the Bahamas. The theme he chose was Christmas in Paradise. He sold it to the association by saying it'd be bright colors to offset the dreary winter we were having. They enthusiastically approved it. They had no idea. He found some plastic palm trees, borrowed 9 of a friend's pink flamingos, and built a sled for Santa. The flamingos had reindeer antlers, and the one in front had a red nose stuck on. The reins for his flamingos were lights, not bells. He also had lights on the house and fake palms and a sign that said Christmas in Paradise. The HOA couldn't do anything because I had found a painting in the Bahamas that inspired the whole setup and bought it for the friend with the flamingo collection and fit it with his theme. The HOA enforcement officer was pissed when he realized he couldn't do anything because, 1, my friend was able to show him the picture I purchased for our flamingo collector friend, and 2, the rules said you could add anything that was plausible with your theme. Christmas in Paradise equals pink flamingos. And our second story. I got hella Karen'd at my job today. I was reaching the end of my shift and some fat middle-aged lady storms in and starts yelling about how she didn't get her sundae in the drive-thru. I asked for her receipt and she started screaming about how she didn't need her receipt because she had to get out of her car. I told her that she did need a receipt and she asked for a manager. I gave her the manager, who just made the sundae to avoid conflict. While the sundae was being made, she started reprimanding me about asking for a receipt. I told her that I was just following company policy, which she said I was lying about. Then she was given her sundae. And then she asked for corporate's number. The manager went in the back to get it. I followed her. She got the number written down and gave it to me and told me to give it to her, so I did. I give her the paper and she says, "Why don't you write your name on that?" Then she said my name. I told her that I would, but I also said that it seems that she knew my name because she just said it. She was very mad at me for pointing that out, but she did follow my advice and didn't ask me to write it down. I told her to have a great night and she started yelling more about how I was going to regret saying that and such. Then she started to storm out and I said, "Have a great night." She stammered for a bit and just said, "You'll see." And our next story. Tightfisted flatmate. In 2013, I was living with the most money-conscious person I've ever met. We'll call him Penny Pincher. It wasn't his most annoying trait. That title was held by his screaming graphic profanities via mic at randoms playing Call of Duty at 2 a.m., or maybe leaving his kids' dirty nippies on worktops in the kitchen. But it was the trait that cost me most. A few examples. All of the bills were in my name. When he moved in, he asked to see copies of the bills so he could determine his exact share. I was fine with this. I wouldn't expect anyone to blindly trust someone they didn't really know, so I prepared all the documents in advance in case he asked. I showed them to him. Some bills were paperless, so I showed him my online accounts too. Sorted, right? Nope. Every month and sometimes every week, he'd query a bill or ask why the internet was so expensive and have me call the company to see if a better rate was available, or ask to see another bill again and get angry when I said I hadn't kept them. I started sending him a monthly breakdown and tried to mitigate this, but he kept at it anyway. After a month or so, Penny Pincher suggested that because he uses less electricity than I do, he should pay less of a share of the gas/electric bill. I asked how he was able to determine how much electricity I was using, and he said I'd left the bathroom light on all day on several occasions. I have no idea if that was true or not, but we're talking pennies here. Penny Pincher paid a flat rate on electricity per month anyway. When it varied, like in the winter for heating, I paid more. Before he moved in, Penny Pincher told me he had a 5-year-old kid, but you'll probably never see him. I'll have him over maybe once every other weekend. That kid was over almost every night of the week. So in a year, his kid probably spent 200 to 250 nights at our place. By contrast, my girlfriend, who lives in America, came over to visit for 6 weeks. Penny Pincher said that wasn't fair and she could come in and use our electricity, not pay rent, etc. He announced, therefore, that for that period, he was only going to pay 2/3 of his rent, council tax, and bills. He said all this several weeks after she'd already left because that was around the time he decided to save up for a new PlayStation, and it gave him a hefty 200-pound head start. And he was true to his word. I had to ask my girlfriend if she was okay helping to cover it because otherwise I'd have been hurting financially that month. Of course, I didn't ask if his child should be charged for using our electricity and living rent-free because, well, that seemed absurd. However, if the situation was flipped and I had a kid, I'm pretty sure Penny Pincher would have demanded my kid pay a share of the rent and bills. We did not part on good terms. I eventually had to have a go at him for leaving dirty nappies all over the kitchen, and he got extremely aggressive. We're talking turning bright red, screaming in your face angry. He was a big lad and a bully, and didn't like being told what to do. After almost coming to blows over something that I thought could be amicably resolved, and wasn't even that huge an ask, put them in the bin outside, mate, I decided it was time for me to move on. In a slightly jerk move, I straight up canceled all the accounts instead of transferring them to him, so he'd have to set all those up himself. When I closed the gas-electric account, it turned out we'd been overpaying them for years, as they'd erroneously based the entire year's rate on our winter usage and then bumped it up even higher in winter, including the year or so I lived with Penny Pincher. So when I closed the account, in total I was due a rebate of around £900. I worked out the percentages for the 2 flatmates I had previously and met up with them for a pint and to give them their money back. I did not call Penny Pincher. He helped me pay for a fancy new TV in my new flat. I got back all the money he'd misered off me over the months and then some. The funny thing is, if he hadn't been such a jerk, I never would have closed those accounts and they'd have been transferred to his name instead. Chances are he'd have gotten the rebate when it finally came to closing the account at the end of the tenancy. After all of his penny pinching and analyzing bills, he didn't realize you were both being overcharged for utilities? What an idiot. And our last story. My pool is not the public pool. This happened when I was about 7 or 8. My family was very fortunate to a large backyard with a pool. We lived in a very urban area and it was rare to have that much space, but our home was passed down for decades and a hidden gem. It was nothing crazy, a large, 5-foot deep, above-ground pool someone was selling on Craigslist. My parents were on a severe budget, we lived paycheck to paycheck, and they thought by having a pool, we, my younger brother, sister, and I, would be entertained most of the summer without having to go out and spend money. One summer day, we were all playing outside in the yard, not in the pool, when 2 young boys we've never met started walking up our driveway. Our driveway is fairly long, about 40 feet, and nestled in between my house and our neighbor's house, so very little of my backyard is visible from the street, and the pool wasn't at all. We say hi and notice these kids about my age are in swim trunks and have towels over their shoulders. They're very sweet, from what I can remember, and say hi back and ask if they can swim in our pool. As children, we have no idea what to think or say, so one of my siblings runs inside to get our mother. She comes out and says, "I'm sorry, boys, but this isn't a public pool. There is a public pool just one street over, and it's very clean, and it only costs $1 to use." Prior to us having a pool, we used the public pool, so we were very familiar with it. The boys say okay and leave. 10 minutes later, we see them walking up our driveway again. This time they have their father with them. You all probably see where this is going. Father asks us, "Can my sons use your pool?" To which we reply, "No, our mom said that's not okay." He says, "Get your mom." So one of my siblings runs in again and gets my mom. This time she comes out and you can tell she's irritated. The man repeats his question and my mom repeats her previous answer. The guy gets all huffy. "I don't understand why my children can't use your pool. Your kids aren't using it right now. It's a hot summer day and we're neighbors." It's not very neighborly to say no. My mom, mouth hanging open from gall of this guy, quickly recovers and says, "Just because my kids aren't currently using it doesn't mean it's open to the public. I bought it. It's on my property. I pay the electricity, water, and chemicals for it. And as for not being neighborly, I don't even know who you are. I've never met you. You've never introduced yourself to us, and frankly, I don't think it's very neighborly to use me and my children for our pool when you've never given us the time of day before." Some more back and forth went on. My sibling went to go get my dad. When he comes out, a massive 350 to 375-pound angry man, the guy just sneers at my mom and says, "Well, it's good to know who the racists in this town are." Turns and walks away with his boys trailing and complaining, "But you promised." We never saw them again, and I've never seen my mom so insulted, and it was my first memory of an entitled parent. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.